welcome to the Bark Night Podcast, where we shine a spotlight on the world of film and TV through news, reviews, and in-depth discussions. Today's episode is our 28 years later, The Bone Temple review episode. We'll be covering that latest horror film from Nia DaCosta, touching on the newest Netflix action thriller, The Rip, along with the latest industry and physical media news. Be sure to follow, like, or leave a rating wherever you're watching or listening. It helps keep the reels turning. First off, for the viewers, we did a review on this film's predecessor, 28 years later, in episode 49 last summer. So if you're interested in catching up on that, feel free. It is not required. We're going to start off with a bunch of non-spoiler stuff here, and then we'll get into the spoilers of the movie. So you got a little bit of time if you haven't seen it yet.
Or if this auto-played on you, you're just trying to practically find the remote so you don't hear spoilers.
Right. So first off, our director of the movie, Nia DaCosta. She is a pretty well-established director at this point. She did Little Woods, Candyman 2021, The Marvels, and Hedda. She's a writer and director. She only directed this. The movie was written by Alex Garland, who also wrote The Beach, 28 Days and Years Later, Sunshine, Dread, Ex Machina, Annihilation, Men, Civil War, and Warfare. And he directed a bunch of those too. So he's very well established.
Men stands up on that one. That one I bounced right off of, but the rest of those movies I really like.
Men is a bizarre movie, yes. Yeah. Have you seen Civil War yet?
Yeah. Oh, no.
Caught that one?
Sorry. Warfare. I saw Warfare and I loved it.
I remember you loved
My
Warfare.
bad.
You should check out Civil War. Civil War is actually really good. I think most people kind of were like, I don't want to see that because I'm worried that we might actually be close to a civil war.
Yeah. Questions are raised.
A lot of people didn't like that it doesn't explain the background behind everything that's going on, and it doesn't necessarily take sides in what is going on now. But what it does do, having seen it, is it lays all the groundwork for you to kind of make a lot of those assumptions yourself.
Well, right.
Which I think is sort of the point is, everything that happens in it is trying to get you thinking, which it's really good. But it's also, it's different than you might expect it to be. It's kind of about like wartime photographers. But anyways.
Yeah, Kirsten Dunst in it, right?
Yep.
That's fun.
So 28 years later, The Bone Temple, directed by Nia DaCosta, wrote by Alex Garland. The first one and 28 years later, so 28 days later and 28 years later, were both directed by Danny Boyle. Going into this one, I saw an interview with her just earlier today where she was kind of talking about like what her approach to the movie was. Did she feel beholden to a lot of the techniques that Danny Boyle uses in his movies? And she basically was like, no. Yeah. Part of her process with that was saying like, no, I want to go in and make it my own. And 100% she did. I think the only thing she said that she used of his was the shooting style that he uses for the infected in this, what she called the shutter angles. When they're filming the infected, you can tell the camera kind of shifts. And it's at it looks like it's at like a different speed, so things seem like kind of chaotic. And that is one of the things that she brought over. But largely, I mean, from a shooting style perspective, it's actually very different from 28 years later.
And you see that, like you see some of those things. I know when 28 years later first started out, there was a lot of weird kind of like slow motion, tilted around camera stuff. There's none of that in here. But as you said, you can tell it's in the same universe, but shot differently.
Yeah. Like it's the vibe of it is very similar, but like even in Years they had those like weird little cut scenes where it was like, oh, now here's the infected running around at night with night vision, and then these other like
rampaging deer
scenes of like the soldiers like walking and whatnot. None of that is included here.
No. Very much
a bunch of people bounced off the ending of 28 years later, where they had like the hey, this is what to look forward to in the Bone Temple. And that is completely abandoned.
Yeah.
That like sort of like Power Rangers scene everybody.
I was going to say, yeah.
None of that is used here. So if anybody has seen Years and you're worried about that being what this movie is, 100% it's not.
Right. And without going too far into spoilers, just being vague, 100%. Like I saw you, it was in one of the things you typed up where you mentioned about the Power Rangers scene, and it absolutely was. If you ever watched that show as a kid, when the putties or the bad guys show up, they kickflip on the screen, and it's ridiculous. And for whatever reason, they decided to go with that for the introduction of the Jimmies. And then in this movie, they immediately, like, if you have any thought in your head that the Jimmies are going to be like, oh, I'm a little weird group. No, they are terrifying. And she gets that going right off the bat, which I think is to the benefit of the movie.
Yeah, she jumps right into it. And there's not a single backflip. I think there's one tuck and roll in the movie.
Yeah.
And that is it. And it is done extremely, realistically.
Yeah. Some Teletubby dancing, but it's not done for fun.
No, it's done to be creepy. Like Clockwork Orange style.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from a review standpoint, on IMDb, this movie currently stands at a 7.8 out of 10. Now, to put that in perspective, 28 Days Later had a 7.5 out of 10. 28 years later had a 6.6 out of 10. So for a lot of people, this movie really hits for them much better than 28 Days Later did. Now, it's worth stating that 28 Days Later has had many, many years now to get this rating. So the Bone Temple right now, this is based solely off everybody who's seen it this weekend. So as more people get out and see it, and once it hits streaming and all that, these numbers can adjust a little bit over time. But right now it's in first place for the series. I didn't look at weeks, but I don't care.
That's okay.
I'm sure that's lower than all of them. It's probably like a 5 something.
And weeks exist. I don't mind weeks, but yeah, it's definitely kind of the outlier of the franchise now. They very much went off 28 days, now years, now Bone Temples. Kind of their trilogy, kind of like, I don't want to say like the Michael Myers sliding timeline crap, but they're just kind of ignoring weeks at this point.
Yeah, and the way Alex Garland stated it was when he was asked about this while doing promotion for the movie, is he said he's not doing anything to contradict weeks, but he's not doing anything to reference it either.
Right.
He did not write weeks. Him and Danny Boyle were not involved whatsoever. Well, Danny Boyle did shoot the intro scene in it. But
that's why
wasn't involved.
Why it's the best scene in the whole movie, which
yeah,
I like weeks, but that intro scene in the movie is beyond anything else that movie has, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's quality.
It is really good.
On Rotten Tomatoes, our critics have this at a 94%. Our audience has it at a 90%. That's very good for Rotten Tomatoes. Very good.
Yeah, I checked it early.
Opening weekend, because sometimes you'll have ratings like that leading into a movie where it's like, a couple content creators that have seen it and a couple critics that have seen it, and all right, you got 30 people that have seen this movie, and all of them, 28 out of 30 liked it. But these are opening weekend numbers, so that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, when I checked it Wednesday morning, I believe, I pop on Rotten Tomatoes to see what the initial reviews for movies are, and it was sitting at like an 89, I think. So it went up, and that's not always the case. It's actually usually the opposite. When you see the initial reviews, usually you see it go down afterwards. But it's as you said, gone up. So that's pretty impressive, I think.
Yeah. Metascore, it's got an 81 out of 100. Days had a 73. Years had a 77. So once again, it's in the lead. Cinemascore has an A-.
Dang. Okay.
As a reminder for people, that's polling moviegoers as they exit the theater. Years had a B. So it's higher than that in Cinemascore as well. Days I could not find.
It's probably too old.
It probably is too old for it.
Weeks we don't care about.
I did not look at any of this for weeks. On Threads, people are absolutely hyped for this on Threads. Nearly everybody. I did see one or two people that are like, it wasn't for me. But it's like seriously, like I saw one person that didn't like it. I saw one person that was like, oh, this is okay. I liked Years better. And then I saw like 50, 60, 70 people that are blown away by this movie. So they're loving it.
Right. And I get that. It's like, as you said, the approach to it's much more contained than even like, well, I don't know, 28 years was pretty contained. Just Spike and his mom or the island. This one focuses on Spike's there, but he very much kind of fades in the background a lot. And the story is carried by Jack O'Connell and Ralph Fiennes and their characters and what their journey is for this story. And they really, both of those actors really kill it.
Yeah, they absolutely do. So for box office, things are a little bit underwhelming here.
Really?
Yeah, so we got about 2 million, 2 point something on Thursday, 5.6 on Friday, and they think this might end up in the 13, 15, maybe 20 range, which is not great. 28 Years had a $30 million opening. Now, they think it's going to be enough for it to take first place.
But, I mean, what's it going against?
Avatar.
Yeah.
And Zootopia.
But those movies have been out for 20 years.
Yeah, so this is the fourth week, I think, maybe fifth, of Avatar: Fire and Ash, but it has been in first the entire time.
That's a shame.
But yeah, so it's a little bit underwhelming right now, but I think a big piece of that is like, so for one, they probably shouldn't have dropped this in January like this. January is not known for big box office takes.
It's known for studios,
unfortunately.
It's known for studios dumping movies they don't really give a crap about.
Yeah, exactly. So the reason it is put here, they said, is because they wanted to release it 28 weeks after 28 years. And like, that's cool, but you know, they didn't really put a big marketing push behind that. So like, I know that. I don't know if you knew that.
I know that.
I think most people don't know that. So why do it? You know, I think they should have waited till March, April.
Yeah, you shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people were really put off by the ending of 28 years. And I think a lot of people overall were underwhelmed by 28 years.
Right.
So that's a big part of it. But 28 years later, it's worth putting out there that it had a pretty big drop off as weeks went on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this has as big of a drop off.
It might get some legs from word of mouth.
I think so. I hope so, because I really want to see the third chapter in this trilogy. So I think that they should be sort of, I hope that they do pretty well with that.
Right.
Now, the other side of that is that this had a $63 million budget. So they kind of have to make a lot of money to make up the budget for this, which for what it's worth, I'm not even sure it looks like in the end, 28 years later did make a profit, but that was a $60 million budget, and it ended up pulling in 151 worldwide. So yeah, that should be fine to make a profit. It's going to be a long road to 151, I think, and I think they're going to have to leave this here, and I think they're going to have to continue now that this has sort of, you know, been released. I think they really need to lean into some of the strengths of this movie in the marketing to really get people out there. And you got the word of mouth spreading, but like, I mean, in all honesty, the marketing did this movie no favors either, because it did not tell you what this movie is about, and that's tough for it.
It just shows
I saw some people online saying that they didn't even know this was a sequel. They thought this was just a different version of the last 28 years.
Oh.
And, you know, by and large, it didn't really explain what the plot of this was. And I do think explaining what the plot of it is a little bit tough from a marketing perspective without spoiling a lot of the movie. But now that the movie's out, I think they have to do that.
They got to push it. They got to do some more advertising. Hype up the performances by Ralph Fiennes and Jack O'Connell, and try to get some more butts in the seat, obviously. I think what was the trailer? The trailer was just like Ralph Fiennes dancing around and fire, and that was like basically it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a big part of it is just him sort of walking around the field and talking, and it leaned a little bit into Jack O'Connell's character there. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot. I mean, I don't even think that any of Jack O'Connell's people there got really anything to do in the trailers.
Yeah,
So I really think they need to start leaning into some of the really strong scenes that are in this.
Right, you don't even see Spike in the trailer, do you?
You see him,
Do you? Okay.
but I don't think he gets any lines. Nothing of substance, anyways.
And this movie has no Aaron Taylor Johnson. He's absent.
As expected, yeah.
Every other character from the first movie, not that there's a whole bunch of them, but none of them show back up.
I thought that the one guy that they cut to, that's part of the other group that gets attacked by Jack O'Connell's character, they cut to this guy in the forest, and I thought that guy was... Oh, no, wait. No, he wasn't part of that group. The first guy that gets attacked by Samson, I thought that was Aaron Taylor Johnson for a moment.
You're like, oh, God.
I was like, they bring him on screen, and like, that's their fault, first of all, because it basically looks like Aaron Taylor Johnson, but with grown out hair. Right. You know?
You know what? Actually, I think I did have a brief moment of, is that him? And then like, no. But I think
exactly. And then I was like, no, that's not him. But I'm sure I'm sure we're not the only ones that had that moment. But anyways, give your quick and easy review here.
Right. So yeah, enjoyed it quite a bit. Enjoyed it a lot, actually. I don't know. It could be recency bias because I just saw it, but I really liked 28 Years Later last year. I think it was one of the top horror movies. There was quite a few cream of the crop last year, but it would definitely be up there for me. I think I might like this one better. It's like I said, it's going to take time to sort that out because recency bias, just saw it, fresh in the mind, and all that stuff. It factors into it. But yeah, I enjoyed the crap out of it. I liked how it was filmed. I liked the tension it built immediately with the opening scene in the pool there. It just kind of sets how this movie's going to be, and it's set in the world 28 whatever. It's known for the infected. They're actually called zombies at one point in this movie, but infected very much what they try to push. And the infected are not super in the story. It's the story of the story of the group of people who have changed the world into what they want it to be, kind of, and the story of the Ralph Fiennes character, K. It starts with K.
Dr. Kelson?
Kelson, thank you. Couldn't think of the last name. Dr. Kelson, and how he's trying to kind of find a way through it too. And like it's just really interesting that this movie went that direction and how well she pulled it off. Yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit. I would be buying this one if I didn't already. I'm gonna be buying this one, I should say, and watching it many more times because it's really good, and it's really a surprise how much I liked it for how little like zombie action there was.
Yeah, I agree. So my review of it. So I think that I also liked 28 Years Later. I put it at like maybe a 7.5 overall. So I liked it. I didn't love it. Mm-hmm. We did a whole episode on it. Right. But it had some issues. But overall, I did really like it. I think that this one takes everything that's introduced in that movie and expands upon it and executes it in a much better way.
I agree with that.
I think that everything that I was kind of like, I don't know if I love that about 28 Years, every single thing they do better in this one. And specifically Nia DaCosta does better, because I think a lot of people had complaints about sort of some of those shooting styles at the beginning of 28 Years and about sort of the weird, almost post-credit, but it still came before the credits, like that the ending stinger with the flipping and the Power Ranger stuff.
That's a very divisive
No,
scene.
I don't think anybody liked that.
I shouldn't say divisive. That's a very not well-received scene, and that's the last thing you see in the movie. That's what sticks in your head as you leave the theater. You're like, what was that?
Yeah, and that's why I can't help but think that if they had done better with that scene, things would be much different right now. So I think that this one has, I think it has less sort of like zombie infected carnage in it, but I do think that like across the entire movie it manages the vibes much better. Right. So a lot of people were like, hey, you kind of had some shifts in tone in the last one that kind of startled me, where like the beginning is much different than sort of the ending. Now this one is very consistent, I felt, across the entire thing in sort of like that just the general tone and vibes of the movie. Now, with that being said, it can be a little bit of a slow burn. I would not call it a slow burn, but I think that's a strength of it, and I could see a couple people complaining about that, but I really I don't think it's I don't find it to be a problem at all.
I did not think
I just found myself really, really, really enjoying this movie. And so I would say if anybody has any worries, if you liked 28 Years Later, but you didn't like that ending part of it where you're like, I don't want to see a whole movie about that, put that right out of your mind, because this does not lean into that whatsoever. It leans a completely different way. And all of those scenes with Ralph Fiennes in 28 Years Later, if you liked those and you want to see more of that character, this is his show in this. He gets to do everything that he wants, and he's the main focus of the movie. The other focus of the movie is Jack O'Connell's character, and he is absolutely fantastic here. So 2 years back to back pulling in these extremely well done villainous roles. I think this is right up there in the way of like of a great villain compared to his one in Sinners. So yeah, I really think this is I don't think the box office numbers give this the justice that it deserves for being as good as it is, because I think it's far better than 28 Years. And 28 Years, I was just checking on my phone, I had it in my top 10 horror movies of 2025. I think it was like 7 or 8, but that's pretty good. And this one, I think, is going to be not only in my top 10 horror movies. There's a good chance this ends up in my top 10 favorite movies. Right now, it's in my number one spot. But we only have a couple movies, new movies we've seen this so far this year. So, but yeah, I really, really, really liked it, and I think I hope they give Nia DaCosta the sequel, because I think that would be the smart move here. But I can say that she was asked about that while doing the press for this, and she said the plan right now is for Danny Boyle to direct the third. And I really do think they should give it to Nia DaCosta, because I liked her style of shooting much more than I liked his.
And yeah, and you said, refresh me on this. When the movie started, did it even have 28? I remember the title screen with the Bone Temple, but did it have 28 at all before that?
No,
I didn't think so. I always thought that was kind of interesting. Like,
yeah, it just says the Bone Temple.
It's almost
noticed that.
Yeah, an expansion pack or like an amendment to 28 Years. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you like that movie? You could almost put this one on. Yeah, definitely could. Just watch them back to back, just as one long experience. I think that would work. But yeah, it was kind of surprising that they didn't have that branding on it. It's very much her movie. What I was trying to get. My roundabout way of getting it.
Yeah, and I think to its strength. Yeah. But you've got a great script from Alex Garland, and you've got some great directing from her, and all of the actors in it really pull their own too.
Right. Yeah, I can't think of a single character other ones you're supposed to dislike, but like it's not because of the performance, it's because of the evilness.
Yeah.
Some of the Jimmies they're kind of one note, but they're just supposed to be there for you to get like a sense of like, oh crap, this thing's dangerous, and then go from there.
Yeah. So let's jump into our spoiler discussion here for this. There's a couple standout scenes in the movie. The first one, I think, is really at the farmhouse. Yeah. And man, was that hard to watch, you know? Every part of it. I saw some people saying online, somebody said that they were in their theater and a woman stood up and was like, there is something wrong with all of you for watching this, and just walked out of the theater.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean,
why was she there to start?
Not every. Well, I'm sure she didn't expect to see people getting skinned alive.
That's true.
Because that was tough. Yeah. But even more tough was like the one-on-one fight with the guy, where like she cuts him up his arm, and a couple of those things were like, oh man, this is tough. But that scene really kicks into high gear when like he gets the propane tank and he starts lighting them all on fire. That was awesome. I was like sitting there and I'm like, I'm having such a good time right now.
Right. The movie starts off with that whole pool scene where they take Spike and they immediately make him fight another one of the Jimmies to the death so that he can join the group. And the end of 28 Years doesn't have that tone at all. It's just like, hey, you're going to come join us. And you think maybe he'll follow them around like a little puppy dog and then learn they're bad. Because you know they're bad because there's a scene earlier in 28 Years where they find a man tied up with like a bag on his head. And I think they have Jimmy written on him or on the wall or something. So you know that they did that. So you know that they're not a good group. But you thought maybe there'd be some of him discovering this. And it's not. Immediately, knife fight in a pool. If the kid didn't win, he would have probably been killed. And it just immediately gets that tension. Like, I don't know. Just like that scene I loved because it just immediately made me tense, immediately made me into the movie like right off the bat.
Yeah. And that seems to be their whole thing. This isn't like Negan in The Walking Dead where you just get killed. You get tortured.
Yeah, that's their thing.
If you don't survive your battle with them, you're going to get tortured. And so that's what happened to that guy that had the J carved into him in that farmhouse in the first one. Yep. And that's what would have happened to Spike had he not won that fight at the beginning of this, is he would have been tortured and killed. And that's what I think Ralph Fiennes realizes at the end here when they're talking to him, and Jack O'Connell's character is talking about, hey, our orders are to go out there and continue what we've been doing. And he's like, yes. And he's like, continue the torturing and the skinning alive. And he starts to list off all these things that they've done. And you see him, he's like, oh my God, I've got to, I didn't realize how evil this guy was. I'm scared of him. And I'm doing this because I don't want to get killed. But I actually, I have a position of power right now. and I don't think I can let this guy leave.
No, you can't. Like the amount of evil that character personifies is something that need to be taken out of the world. They call them Satanists at one point, I think. That's exactly what they are. They're not there to save the world. They're not there to try to save humanity. They are there to pillage and torture, and it's brutal. And like I said, you don't get that from the end of 28 years with the kickflip and everything else. You know?
Yeah.
It's just
And
change.
I can't stress enough how much of a fumble it was for Danny Boyle to end the movie like that when this movie was the way that it is. You know, you have to make a point to preview the movie that's coming after this. And if he had only just previewed that they were this evil group, but like it makes it seem like he's like a mythical creature at the end, you know?
Yeah.
Like he just has like a weirdness to him that you're like, is this guy even real? You know? But in this one, he seems very real. He seems like I rewatched that scene after the fact, and he almost seems like clean in that too. In that the outfit looks clean. It almost seems like he's got like a spiritualness to him where like you're like, is this guy even, you know, like a guy that's been roaming these lands, or is he like a little fairy tale creature like coming here? And that's not how they seem in this. The outfits they're wearing are actually really dirty, and I wonder if that's kind of like a stylistic choice of like, I mean, the whole scene's a stylistic choice, right? But I think most people were like, well, bad choice.
Yeah, and it's such a vast, like, I know I keep belaboring the point, but it's just such a difference. You got to like tell people if anyone's watching this and they're on the fence because of how the last one ended and how weirdly batshit that scene was. It's not this movie. This movie is exactly as we've been saying. Those guys, the Jimmies, are evil and a problem, and they're going to be a source of panic and dread for Spike the whole movie because he's trying to get away, but he just can't find the right time to do so. There is one other Jimmy who gets a decent amount of screen time, played by Erin Kellyman, I think her name is. And
yeah,
and she's great too, and she actually has, I don't want to say humanity to her, but she's at least receiving like Spike's anxiety and like helping him a little bit and like getting him some support. But she's not exactly like, oh, we should stop doing this. She's just like, this is what we do. So that's something too. I liked her performance in this as well.
Yeah, I did too. And I've seen her in a handful of things so far that I was like, all right, she seems like a good actress, but she's not really getting what she needs right here. You know, like she was in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. She was the head of the, what are they called? The Flag Smashers. Yeah, and she's been in a few other different things here. She was in The Green Knight. She was in Solo. But I'm mostly thinking about her in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I couldn't help but think like she seems like a good actress that's being given, you know, barely anything to do here. And so it was good to see her kind of get a role and a script that does give her some things to do, and it gives her a very conflicted character because, you know, you can tell that she's been in this group for longer than she would like to be. Long enough that she's got her doubts about the group. I don't think she likes what they do, but she grew up in this world. Right.
She says,
you know,
she says at some point, she's like, "This is what we do." It's just like matter of fact, like you go up and you go to the bathroom. That's what you do. That's how she portrays it.
Yeah, and so I really, really liked how they gave her a lot of like conflict. You can see she's conflicted in herself. You can see that she's conflicted in her views of the world. She has her doubts of Jack O'Connell's story, but she still thinks it's real, right? She was like, I can tell he's full of it, like he's never seen this guy before, but she does still think that Ralph Fiennes' character is the devil. So it's interesting that, you know, she's legitimately surprised when he's like, no, this was all fake. Yeah. And I wonder where they're going to take that in the third. So I'm really, really interested in that, in seeing how she interacts with specifically, and this is a big spoiler, at the end of the movie, they introduce Cillian Murphy. Right. And you can see him, and he's got his daughter with him. They both run down to rescue Spike and Erin Kellyman's Jimmy character.
Who's Kelly?
And what's that?
Kelly. She revealed the name was Kelly at the very end.
Oh, yeah. They run down to rescue them. So I'll be interested in seeing how Cillian Murphy interacts with them, given that he seems to be very well put together. He's teaching his daughter, he's homeschooling his daughter, he's teaching her history and everything. And so that's something that Kelly has not had the opportunity. She's not been brought up in a world where she's had anybody to look up to, it sounds
A
like.
home, even. They're just a marauding band of miscreants.
Exactly.
So it'd be very interesting seeing, like, honestly, with you, not to jump right to the end, but yeah, seeing that scene with the Jim character come back, it just, I don't know, it gave me a feeling of, holy crap. Like, I kind of, like, I knew there was rumors that he'd do a cameo or something. It's not a cameo. It was a decent, well, I guess it is a cameo, but, like, it's more substantial than I thought it'd be, you know? And it very much sets it up for the third movie, which we need to have happen, so people need to get their butts in seats.
Yeah. Where do you think it's going to go with his character?
With Jim? He's going to want to protect his daughter.
Oh, that's really... So, sorry to interrupt. It's really... I just put together that, like, so it was previously, like, thought about, like, oh, it's interesting that his name is Jim, and there's this group of Jimmies, and I thought it was just a nice coincidence, but that could really factor into how they're going from a Jimmy to a Jim.
Yep.
And, I mean, that might psychologically be like... I mean, they'll probably see that as a sign, I guess, but... That'll be interesting that they you know, I bet they touch on that 100%. In the introduction. Like, what's your name? And he's like, I'm Jim.
There's no way there's no way they did that without having a reason for it. Like, you could choose any name for the Jimmies. It hadn't be the Bryans, the Stevens, you know? But you went with Jimmy for probably to tie it into this third movie, obviously, that God I hope gets made. But yeah. Like, that's a great scene. They don't have Selena there. Hopefully she's just off screen, but the way it's framed, I don't know.
I have a prediction about that.
Let's hear it.
My prediction is that she's infected.
Probably in the basement or something.
And is out there.
Oh, it's out there.
And so this group doesn't know there's a cure, but they're not far from Samson right now. No. So they can figure it out. And once they do, I'd be willing to bet that somewhere over the course of that movie, they run into Selena, and maybe it's a flashback or something. But I think the idea would be that somewhere along the line she's infected, and Jim couldn't kill her.
She might be like I was going to tell you. My guess was that she's in the basement, but it's possible. So yeah. So you think they're going to get there? But do they even know about Samson though?
No, they don't. This group doesn't know about Samson. They've met him. Well, Spike has met him,
but when he was the most,
because he was chased by him through that whole area. And attacked him and Ray Fiennes when they're together. Both get attacked by him too, and I think he sees that Ray Fiennes has been doing stuff with him up there. Oh, that's how it happens. When he first gets there, Samson is chasing Spike and the other character and his mother through the field there, and the good doctor hits him with his morphine. And then they get attacked again towards the end. But so Spike knows about him. So if he sees him, if they run into Samson in the next movie, it will be clear at that point that he's been cured.
So we kind of skipped over it, but there's a point in the movie where the Dr. Kelson, right? Kelson? I can't keep that in my head. Dr. Kelson is going about his normal business of
Dr. Ian Kelson.
Ian Kelson, yes. Going about his normal business of getting bodies, bringing them back to add to his bone temple. And you can kind of see the way it's framed that he's not super into it anymore. I don't know if his experience with Spike and Spike's mother has changed him on the whole thing. He does say at some point that his work there was done with that part, but he's still doing it because I think it's probably all he knows to do. Samson comes up.
Well, and I think it's easier to do that than it is to bury bodies, right?
Oh, yeah, sure. But yeah, so Samson comes up to him and basically he's just like, hey, you got any more of that morphine? Because he must have, like, the experience of, like, being tranced out by that stuff relaxes his rage-filled brain, and he kind of wants that feeling again. So they develop this not weird, but this interesting, like, friendship dynamic where, like, in order to calm the virus that's raging in his head, he goes to Dr. Kelson to get the morphine shots so that he can relax for a minute. So then Kelson kind of figures out, like, hey, maybe there's a way to calm the brain overall. Maybe this is, like, he says a bunch of medical jargon that sounded good. and maybe there's a way to calm this infection or whatever. His
whole theory there is that he wonders to himself, the fact that Samson comes and sits with him and more or less asks for this calming agent. He's like, so there is thinking happening up there. So if there is still some level of intelligence, then why the violence? And he's like, well, it could be that the infection is bringing on a sort of psychosis. So his theory is that if it's a psychosis, it can be treated. And so he comes up with that cocktail to treat the psychosis specifically.
And of course, as he's making this discovery, that's when the Jack O'Connell Jimmy shows up and things go sideways that way. But yeah, it's a very interesting idea because Kelson he wrote it all down in his book, but no one knows about that stuff except for maybe Samson. I don't know, but that could be the third.
Well, when the movie ends, Samson is thanking him and is carrying him off. Right. So my theory is that once again, Ralph Fiennes is going to be in the third one.
Really?
And yes, and they have a scene at the beginning before he dies where he takes him down to his room and puts him in his bed to comfort him and give him a place. And if they really want to layer this stuff on, they can have Samson give him some morphine to ease his pain while he leaves the world. And then maybe he passes his knowledge on to him.
At least that notebook. He tells him to take that notebook to people or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very possible what could happen. I mean, it's a movie, though. Like, all the time you think a character's dead, and they're like, wait, hang on, I'm okay. For like 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, they could introduce something where Samson saves his life, but I don't think they're going to. I think that this is the end of Dr. Kelson's story, but I do think they're still going to feature him at the beginning.
I think so, too.
When that happens.
Yeah, because you need some way to bring that potential cure into the fold.
Yeah, bridge the gap.
Yeah, there's a great scene where like they're all gorked out on the drugs, and he was gonna put Samson down with a little concoction he had, but Samson speaks, so that gives him the actual. He says moon, I believe. That gives him the desire to like go forward with more treatment of this disease, and yeah, it seems to help Samson out too, but. Unfortunately, as we said, he's very much injured, if not passed away by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
Because
I'm going to be honest, I started to tear up during that whole thing. I think everything they do with Samson is so extremely well done that, I mean, there's some parts of it that are like a little bit humorous in how cheesy they are.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's intentional. And it's meant to show like, hey, there is a little bit of lightheartedness in this world. And that reminded me of the first one where they had... You know, that like I called out last episode where the tone of the movie changes in the original when they're frolicking through the field together. You know, they're driving their little, I don't remember if it was like a Volkswagen or whatever through the field, and they're having a picnic and all that. You know, it's a little bit cheesy, but it's good because that's how it feels for those characters to finally, you know, have a good moment. It's supposed to be like that. And for them to follow it up with like him saying like, you know, we're pretty limited on our morphine now, and so I could ease your pain now like this, just like he did for Spike's mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all really, really well done, and I really did start to tear up at that part.
Right. And now you got Samson out there functioning better than any infected is. Infected are also aggressive towards him now, which is interesting.
Yeah, they can tell.
Yeah. So that's very much, but he's very much still an alpha, so he's all jacked up and can take care of himself. But that's probably going to be something they're going to tie into the next movie. But yeah, it was just really cool how they went through about that.
Yeah, I was I was in a moment of panic when they all started attacking him because I was like, oh no, are they gonna, you know, take him out like this where he's cured, but then they turn on him and tear him to pieces, and Dr. Kelson, and I was having that moment with that whole thing, and that was a really well done scene too, where they start him off where he's just sitting down on the train, and that's where we're introduced to him in the last one. Well, I think we're introduced to him in the forest, but he has a scene on the train. That's where he gets to tear somebody's head off, and we get one of those here too. So props for that. But he comes and he sits down on the train, and then it has the flashback to him as a kid. And then the vision of that turns into him as an adult, but clean shaven. Mm-hmm. And then he goes from like, so he's having like that moment where his memories are mixing with reality. And then he starts talking to one of the infected. And the fact that he can talk, I think it's the tell
trigger.
For them.
Yeah. Because they're all kind of like, they're all kind of poised around him, but they're not attacking, but they very much are acting like something's off. And then he says, I don't have a ticket. And then they all swarm him.
Yeah, that was really well done.
Really cool.
I was so pumped to see him come out of there just covered in blood, though.
Oh god, he won. So not lost for nothing yet.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting, too, that they introduce ideas in the first one and in this one around the infected, and they don't necessarily give us more information on that, but one thing they did give is when Dr. Coulson points out that Samson's not the first alpha of this region. Mm-hmm. That there was another alpha before him, and Samson's the alpha there now. So it almost seems like he's the head of the pack, and the pack is in charge of hunting this area, kind of like wolves. So they kind of make it out to be like that. And so that's really interesting to think about, in that these things can kind of travel around like a pack and have their alpha, and new ones can become the alpha. It creates sort of like a hierarchy of these that I don't know if they explore that much more in this trilogy. It could be something cool to explore sort of on their own in a spin-off or something, but it's a cool idea, you know, I'm glad they introduced that.
Yeah, the first movie had one other alpha in it that chases Spike and Aaron Taylor Johnson back to the island town across that water bridge, and they gun him down.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the only other alpha they've introduced in the series, and I think very much, like Dr. Coulson said, he's in that area, so maybe it was just not overlapping the areas of the alphas.
So there was like an alpha that was controlling the territory by where Spike lives. Mm-hmm. And this is an alpha of the territory where the Bone Temple is. So it's interesting to think about them having territories and being territorial specifically.
Right. Yeah, that was a really cool scene. I liked what they did with that. And yeah, it's just really well done and just really a good movie. Really something I enjoyed. Something I was excited for, but not like hyped. I was just like, oh, this should be good. And it was better than I expected.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of want to go see it again because I'm interested in knowing what I know by the end, how I feel about all these scenes the second time around. And I really liked it. And I really liked how they treated Samson specifically in that character. And I'm interested in seeing where they go with it. And I really, I can't stress enough how much I really want to see a third one, you know?
They need it. Like this is, to me, is on the same level as the Into or Across the Spider-Verse movies, where it needs to be done. I need to see it now. You know what I mean? Like, I know that's selfish, but like, I need to be able to watch that movie now. It's gonna be on my mind that it's gonna take a while to see it.
Yeah, because it's been greenlit, but it's not started shooting or anything yet. So we're waiting to see how this one did, and who knows at this point.
Hopefully.
So we don't see it for another year, maybe two.
Yeah. Fingers crossed they still go through with it, because I really need them to selfishly.
Yeah, I hope they do, and I hope they just say to themselves, hey, I think a lot more people will like the third one because it has Cillian Murphy as the main star of it.
And he's a star now.
You know, they lean on that alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So. After he won the Oscar for Oppenheimer, like his profile's never been higher, or bigger, I should say. And absolutely, like, this movie might not have had the best promotion for it, getting people excited for it. If they just put his face on the poster, that's going to get the general public like, hey, he's in this movie. Let's check that out. I liked Oppenheimer, you know?
Yep, I think that the threequel has a much stronger chance of doing better, given that Cillian Murphy is going to be the star of it.
Right. Because people might never remember that he was in the first movie. Like, he wasn't a star at that point, and that was kind of his star-making role, I'd say.
Yep. Do you think we've seen the last of the pregnant woman?
No, I was expecting, like, the last scene there where Jim shows up, I was expecting it to be her.
I thought that was their farmhouse.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're run across the girl that Spike let go. Then she kneed him in the balls, but that's life, you know.
Yeah.
You can't blame her for doing that.
You cannot. And by that point, I'm sure she was probably thinking, there's no way I can trust this guy. No. And I'm not going to chance it and get skinned alive.
Yeah, she has no idea he's been with him for a day. You never see her again. There's got to be a way to tie her back into it. I thought they were going to end with her being like their saving grace, but no, they're like, nope, here's Jim.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. It was awesome. And the more we sit here talk about it, the more and more I like that movie. And it was good to see.
Yeah, so that's what I want out of the threequel. I want Cillian Murphy front and center. I want them working to save Selena.
Mm-hmm. Selena.
And I want to see the conclusion of Samson's and Dr. Coulson's story. Mm-hmm. And I really want to see Nia DaCosta back. She had said that this is the first time that she has felt so strongly that she has a solid script going into her movie. And she kind of threw shade at a lot of her other movies here that, like, She's like, I've had a lot of script issues in the past. Going into movies without a script, going in there without a strong script, and being expected to just pick up the slack. And she was very much was like, the script for this is strong, and I'm very confident in it. And she said the only thing she asked for was more infected, which is surprising because there's not a lot infected in this.
At all, yeah.
So that leads me to believe there was barely any whatsoever in the original one. Like, I don't think you count Samson, right?
No, he's established.
Yeah. So I'd imagine that he was always in it. Maybe there wasn't that token scene of him pulling a head off at the beginning.
Maybe there wasn't well, no, because then how do they get to that farmhouse, and how do you establish those characters? I was going to say maybe they didn't have the whole woods scenes, but you need those scenes.
Yeah. Or maybe, like, the whole thing with them having a third friend that gets attacked. Maybe that wasn't there.
That's possible.
Yeah. I would imagine that those are the scenes that weren't included originally.
Right. Yeah. And then it helps out too, because then you get the characters before they get to the farmhouse, and then the whole farmhouse terrible scene. What do they call it when they do their torture? They call it charity.
Yeah.
Ugh. Don't like that.
Yep. Wild.
Don't like that.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts?
It's a really good movie. It deserves to be doing better in the box office than it is. Tell your friends, get them out there in droves, and let's try to get this thing, the third part, made, because I need to see it.
Yeah. I hope that if it doesn't work out where they're like, oh, we can't do this, I hope they at least sell it to a streamer or something and somebody picks it up. But I have to imagine that they'll have more confidence in it if they have a big star like Cillian Murphy to lean on with it, you know?
Put his name front and center, and it's going to do better than just, hey, here's Ray Fiennes in a weird outfit on the poster.
Yeah. As Dr. Kelson said, let's turn this up to 11.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We didn't talk about that scene.
No, the music, he really ties music in his things, too. Like, he sings, when he's sitting there with Samson going through trying to, like, establish a connection, he's singing Duran Duran to him. And they play music at night, and it's just interesting that, like, they give that extra little layer to it. And as Pat alluded to, there's a classic scene where I said classic already. I think it's going to go down like that. There's a scene where the Jack O'Connell character, Jimmy Christian or whatever.
Jimmy Crystal?
Crystal, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
He basically is like, hey, these people think you're Satan. You need to lie to them or I'm going to kill you, pretty much. So Ralph Fiennes just goes with this idea and puts on a hell of a show, a rock concert really, where he's playing Iron Maiden's Number of the Beast in the background and just dancing around and spraying them with drugs and stuff. And it's wild and great. And I enjoyed the hell out of it. There's a certain part where it's going on. I'm just sitting there like, this is what I wanted. I didn't know I wanted this, but I wanted this.
Well, and that is the thing, right? It's up to these movies to always give you what you didn't know you wanted. Right. And Nia DaCosta was asked about that scene specifically in the press while she was doing the press junkets for this. And they were like, how did you decide on that? And she's like, that was in the script. She's like, everything about that scene, the choice of the music throughout all of this, it was all in the script. And she's like, that's why I was so confident in this, because I read the script and I was like, this is awesome. She said they even took care of all the music before she got there, so she didn't even have to go out and get the rights for it or anything like that. It was all ready for her to just kind of go and shoot and do her thing with. That's cool. And yeah, that scene, like, if we're talking about the seance scene in Sinners being my favorite scene of 2025, I think it's going to be very hard for them to do better than this year. This is probably going to be my favorite scene of the year.
Yeah, he does a great job. Does he go by Ray or Ralph? I think I've asked you this before.
Rafe.
Rafe.
Yeah, it's a English thing. So it's spelled Ralph, but it's pronounced Rafe. So like R-A-F-E.
Okay. All right, checks out.
But yeah, the choice of using Iron Maiden for that, and all the Jimmies look like they're having such a good time there, like, because they've grown up in this world where, like, everything is just hell and carnage at all times.
They've never heard that
and they've probably never heard music before.
Or music, yeah.
So extremely well done. And I absolutely want to see that scene again.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be one of those, people watch a movie, they're going to talk about that scene. It's a water cooler type moment.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's a very enjoyable movie. I'm glad it exists.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's jump into the news. First thing I wanted to talk about is new Netflix movie dropped over the weekend, The Rip, that has Ben Affleck and Matt Damon in it. You get a chance to check that out yet?
Not yet, no.
Bone Temple was my Thursday night movie, and this was my Friday night movie. I really liked it. I think you should check it out. It's a nice little like crime thriller action movie about Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are on this team with Tiana Taylor and Steven Yeun, and the guy that plays he plays the other Lanterns in the upcoming Lanterns show. He was the coach in Friday Night Lights.
Not Kyle MacLachlan. That's the first name popped in my head. I said, get it off my brain.
No, Kyle Chandler.
Kyle Chandler. That's it. Yep, we got there.
Yeah, he's in there too. I will say it's somewhat predictable from like an action thriller standpoint. Like it's not necessarily lighting the world on fire in the way of new things you're seeing. I clocked what was going on in the movie in probably the first 10 minutes of it. And I called it out to Sarah. I was like, I think this is what's happening right now. I think this is where it's going and all that. And knowing that, I was still really, really enjoying the movie for what it is. So I think it's probably my favorite thing that the Netflix has put out in the way of action movies. You know, they got a bunch of things like The Gray Man and stuff like that. And usually I'm sort of lukewarm on a lot of these things. They did Havoc last year. And I don't know if you caught Havoc. That was a Tom Hardy movie. This is, I think, better than Havoc. It's kind of a similar style, but it's Joe Carnahan, if you know him. He did Narc with Ray Liotta and Jason Patrick.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, he did Smoking Aces.
Okay. Divisive.
He did A-Team. He did Cop Shop. You see Cop Shop?
No, but you said A-Team.
Gerard Butler and Frank Grillo.
I missed that one, but you said A-Team, and my brain was like, that movie exists. I had forgotten that.
Boss Level with Frank Grillo.
He likes Frank Grillo things.
He does. It's funny because it actually has Scott Adkins is in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know him, right? Yeah. And he actually does some pretty good acting because I feel like Scott Adkins is one of those actors that never gets given like anything to do in his roles. Usually he brings the physicality, right?
He's one of those guys actors that everyone has in movies like, oh, that guy's in there. You don't know his name ever, but they do their role and they do well.
Yeah, and he actually does pretty well in this, and he's not given anything physical to do. He's only doing the FBI agent investigating police officers thing. So he gets like an interrogation scene. He was in Doctor Strange, and in that, they straight up didn't give him lines. He's just one of Mads Mikkelsen's like random guys running around. And so it was cool to see him get something to do here. Basically, the movie's about Ben Affleck's and Matt Damon's team of police officers that includes Steven Yeun and Tiana Taylor. And they show up to a house to seize cash that is supposed to be there. And they find $20 million there. Usually it's like, tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. And sort of all hell breaks loose as
it would.